Hi, hello, my name is Hani, and this is my story. I will take you back 8 years ago. I had a dream. I saw this man I've never seen before in my dream, and I heard a voice telling me a message. And first thing in the morning, I met the guy in my mother in law living room. And yeah, the man was there in the living room, and I completely blown away. I didn't know what to do, and I just walked off. I didn't even say hello to the man, and I didn't know this is gonna be a whole change in my life and a new chapter, I guess, in my life. I was born in Sudan. Grandfather, he's an Arabic teacher and an Islamic teacher as well. He got his own mosque in our house, a family home, or actually the house in the mosque. Pretty much, I grew up believing God, knowing God, the way I used to know God, the way I thought is the right way to know God, I guess. I left Sudan when I was 16. I had to flee the country because my dad was involved against this current government in a coup against the government. I traveled through the Middle East area, Iraq, Syria, Jordan, Egypt. And looking back to this now, I can see only God's hands. It was there. He saved me so many times, and I just can't believe it, And I think this happened for a reason. Maybe in a refugee, going through different countries, experience the persecution you get as a refugee in those countries, coming from East Africa, and afterward I came to the UK. I couldn't speak a word of English, and I had to go to school to learn English, and I carried on with my sport. I mean, I used to do sport. I was playing for the national team, doing judo, and I loved the judo. I represent Sudan in so many different international competitions. So I carried on. I did my coaching certificate in athletics and in different type of sport. I think about 5 or 6 qualification, plus my English, and then I gone further with my education. I moved to Cardiff about nearly 18 years ago. I got married in Cardiff, not far after I moved in, and I've got 3 children, which is 2 of them with autism. It, I developed a real issue with God at that time, and I didn't know why God allowed stuff like this to happen to me, or why He did it, why He's punishing me, because that's what I understood. If something bad happened to you, it's a punishment from God. My wife, a Christian from a Catholic background, so I start going to church sometime with her. I'm still going to the mosque. I'll try to seek an answer for my situation. And the church she was going to was very traditional church, and it was really, really boring. And I couldn't bear sitting there sometime. I would just start doing it just for her, basically. And it was so boring, and I was just concentrating in the smell of the food coming through the window from the neighboring area. Afterward, I stopped going to the mosque, to the church. I didn't get any answer. It was really difficult. My wife, she stopped going to the church as well. She was going to. We lost communication, I guess, with God. There's no communication, there's no connection at all for a few years. Coming back to the dream that I was just mentioned earlier, it changed my life. The dream is about a man which I met the following day. I've never met him in my life before. And he was a missionary. He's a priest. So I went to my mother-in-law and I've asked her, do you know where they're staying? She said, yeah. I said, can you just please ring him now and tell him I'm going to come and see him? We went to him and I told him the story or the message I wanted to tell him. And the man started crying. And I didn't know why he was crying. I didn't want to know, but he told me why he was crying and what those 2 messages meant to him. When I got home, we just chatted and went to bed, slept. And that one I've seen Jesus first time in a dream. And he appeared as a man standing there in the middle of a big crowd, looking at me, smiling, and the voice asking me, "Do you know who this man is?" I said, "No." Asked me again. I said, "No, I don't. Why don't you tell me?" And the voice said, "This is Jesus." And the dream finished like that. So it was crazy. When I woke up next day, my wife found me crying again in the morning. And she was like, "What's wrong with you today?" And I said, "I've seen another man in a dream." And she said, "Who's he?" I said, "It's Jesus." And she was like, she started crying as well for no reason. But she said, "What did he say to you?" I said, "He didn't say anything." And the dreams kept coming on and on and on and on for 3.5 years. Almost every week I see Jesus, or I see something that it comes to life in the next day or in a few weeks' time. I didn't know what to do. I've asked a friend of mine, he's an imam, and I went and I said to him, "Listen, I've been seeing this dream, I've been seeing Jesus in a dream. What's wrong with me? What's going on?" And he told me just to keep it quiet, don't tell anybody. And I said, "Okay," and forget about it and just pray to God. So, which I didn't understand why he saying that. Why should I keep it quiet? So I googled it. I googled if anybody seen Jesus in a dream, and I found out there's a lot of Muslim people seeing Jesus in a dream, and so I was relieved that I wasn't crazy. I wasn't going, mad at the time. And a few years down the road, I think about another 18 months, few months down the road, my wife, she started attending another church, which I used to drive across the church every day. I'm a taxi driver. So I drove in front of the church, and I said to her, "Why don't you just try that church?" And she said, "Okay." And she came to this church, and obviously she loved the church. Just over 4 years ago, it was a Christmas service. My younger son, he was in a play, so I came to see him. And I heard about the Alpha course on that day. And I've asked, "Okay, then, what's the Alpha course?" And the man at the front, he was talking about the Alpha course. And I said, "Okay, I'll have a go. I'll try the Alpha course and I'll see." And yeah, I did go to the Alpha about less than a few weeks later. In the Alpha course, I think not the last session, the one before, I saw the guy who was teaching there, and there was a painting, a trunk, tree trunk, a door, no handle on the door, and Jesus standing knocking. And if he is Jesus, why can't he just boot the door open if he is God? And they said, "No, it's a choice. You say you have to respond. It's a relationship. It's a two-way relationship." I didn't know. That's the thing, I didn't know, the relationship. And I automatically, I understood why he's coming to me almost every week for 3.5 years till we become good friend. And even sometimes when I don't see him in a dream, I just wanted to sleep to see him, if I want to say anything. So then and there, I prayed and accepted Jesus that evening. But less than 3 hours later, I decided no. When I got back home, I changed my mind, and I, out of fear, I guess, and I said to myself, and I said to Jesus, I guess, at the same time, "If you're real, I don't want to see you in the dreams. I want to see your life. I had enough with dreams. I've been seeing you in dreams for a few years now, and that's it, because I'm gonna lose so much here. I'm not willing to lose that for a dream. If you're real and alive, I want to see you." And that was my first prayer as a Jesus follower. And it wasn't long prayer, it was few seconds, I guess. And I started watching TV again. I was thirsty. In a few minutes, I walked to the kitchen, and the first thing I've seen Jesus physically sitting on the counter in my kitchen. I looked at him, he looked at me, he smiled. I took some water, a cup of water, and I just walked off. I didn't say anything. You know, I took the water and went to bed straight away. So it was, I wasn't shocked, but it was peaceful. I mean, imagine if you open your kitchen and switch on the light and you find somebody sitting there. The reaction is going to be, you know, from my background, being a judo player, I would have just attacked that person. But no, it didn't happen that way. It was so peaceful, and like I knew he's sitting there, and just like, okay. 3 days later, that was Sunday night. Wednesday, in the daytime, exactly daytime, I was stuck in a traffic light driving back to the city center. And I've seen exactly the same man again. I've seen Jesus standing in the middle of the road. And this time, he reached through the windscreen and he touched me. And I physically, I can see it, I can feel it. And I don't know how long it took, because a few minutes later, everybody behind me was hooting me and shouting at me and things. I have to, at that minute, he's gone, and I drove off. And I said to myself, okay, I've asked him to come once, and he came twice in 4 days. So I didn't have any other option. I completely exhausted, I think, my my question and my asking, and I gave up. I gave up to him, and I said, okay, that's it. You know, I've asked you, and you came, and I follow you now. I think now you hear my story, you think this guy is a weird, and it's just crazy. Jesus doesn't show up like that to people and all the time. And people are different. God go to people's levels, I believe. My level at that time, if I don't see, I don't believe. I was very stubborn. I was extremely stubborn, you know, to the point that if I say no to something or I don't want to do it, I would not do it. It doesn't matter what. And God knew me and know me till the last day of my life, and beyond that, He knew how I can respond to Him. And this is, for some people, maybe a simple message from somebody. For other person, maybe just a word they hear in the music, in the Bible, they start reading it or something like that. They can, it will change their life. For me, it was no, it needed something radical, I guess, to, yeah, to have a radical life afterward. 2 months later, I got baptized, and a few months later, I went to my first international mission away from home. And it developed, things they developed so quick. I could not even believe, even if I planned that to happen, it wouldn't happen. It's just by God's grace. And I knew exactly in my heart, this is what He want me to do. He want me to just get out and do things that He want me to do. And that's how I end up doing Mission Academy, and I end up joining the mission team in Elim International Missions, and through my church as well. I serve now in different capacity in the refugee camps in East Africa. I travel, and 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 this is just, I think, is, for me, this is the beginning. And God loves people, loves refugees, and God Himself, Jesus, He became a refugee when He was a child with His family. And yeah, and I'm working now in 5 maybe different refugee camps around in East Africa, and I've been going there for the last 2 years, and I know it's going to be a long road, and I'm happy to carry on doing that job. You know, if you see me driving around in Cardiff, if you recognize me, my face, I think because you see me driving a taxi in Cardiff. But this is not my heart, to be honest. I think it's permitting me to go away. This is my full-time job, but it's giving me the time that I can do the work God want me to do in the refugee camps as well. And I'm grateful. When I started doing the taxi, I wasn't happy. The work he mentioned and he invited me to do, I'm doing it now. So I guess I'm blessed